Please, a warm welcome to Markus and to Nicole from Ocean Space and Bauhaus Services.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Michela. Thank you very much, CERN, for hosting us here in IdeaSquare. I thought after yesterday's conversation, I am maybe give a little bit of an insight why I was asking all of these strange questions, and B, maybe give an insight into the TVA 21 Academy as it might be relevant for the conversations that we've been having. So TVA 21 Academy sits within TVA 21. TVA 21 is the abbreviation for Digital Art Contemporary, which is a contemporary art foundation collection, which was founded in 2002 by Francesca Tusbon. This is a fourth generation of art connectors. And rather than her father, who was going around by collecting already existing works from fairs, dealers, galleries, auction houses, she wanted to be very closely involved in actually the commissioning and the production of work. So the collection is mainly built on new commissions. And these commissions are usually genre spanning. So we've combined art and architecture, science, and so on. So within the, I don't know how many hundreds of works, the largest body are actually unique works. So we very close to the topic. In 2011, Francesca challenged the organization. She said, I want to start a new project within the foundation. It operates differently. At the time, we had an exhibition space in Vienna. We have 4 exhibitions a year from the collection. And we do the public programming and the publication of the collection through this exhibition space. And so she challenged the organization and say, I want to start a new project. This project needs to operate differently, and it is meant to look at the environment. And so understanding that the foundation is was ultimately really interested in the moment of change, the causes and effects of change. We were situated ourselves in Vienna at a time where Central Europe was rearranging itself. We made the proposition to say, instead of saying, let's look at the environment, let's look at a system that is constantly changing, that is always moving, that is intricately interconnected, so you can trace the causes and effects of change. You just have to look differently. So can we think from and with change? And then can we think from and with the ocean? The other proposition that was laid by saying, can we work differently, was actually not to create art for a while, right? So for 4 years, we stopped making art. We started bringing artists, scientists, environmentalists, legal experts. Later on, more and more indigenous colleagues together for 2 to 3 weeks at a time on a boat. And the only request that we made was to engage with each other, with the places and the communities that we visited, and engage with the question, what is the ocean? And so for 4 years, we were looking very deeply at the processes around science, around policy, around conservation and education. And we always did this through artistic curiosities, but then putting together these transdisciplinary teams. And what we also did was, and then we said, okay, we want to commit the organization to organizationally respond to the information that was brought to us, right? So aspects of the work, obviously, that at some point became art. Other aspects would become policy interventions, legal interventions. Other aspects became conservation sites. And lastly, we created educational formats that will respond to these questions. This is an image of the International Seabed Authority, which is the United Nations agency that is tasked with the administration and the distribution of the resources on the deep seabed. The ICs, which is called the Common Heritage of Mankind, which is now relevant because supposedly we need the metals on the deep seabed for the energy transition, especially the electric vehicle transition. It's a speculative model that has been driven since the last 20 years. A couple of people are going to be very rich, others are going to suffer massively from that. But that's a different question. So, as I said, parts of the work would become conservation areas. We've initiated 4 conservation sites. There's still around 1 of them, and so on. So, with that, we've been approached by the initiators of the Bauhaus of the Seas very early on to think through this model of the Bauhaus to really would change I just wanted to give you a couple of slides of, let's get our heads out of the gray of this morning at the box of the IdeaSquare, and before we enter to the Bauhaus. Here we go. So the Bauhaus of the Seas then made the proposal, which was unusual for this large consortium that we had, was made that we said, okay, let's culminate a project that is hyper-local, that is process-oriented, that develops materials and their interventions from the local context, and tries to connect the land and the sea. So build a continuum between land and bodies of water. We're talking about 7 municipalities. Lisbon and Venice are the main centers there. Guayaquil, Geneva, Delft, the Delta, Malmö, and Haber. Here we have all the partners. It's rather a large consortium of 18 partners. So let's build a continuum, link together land and sea. The municipalities are usually facing away from the sea or from the bodies of water towards the body of water. Instead of saying inclusive, aesthetic, and sustainable, actually go beyond and say more than human, art and culture driven, and regenerative rather than sustainable.
Yeah. Hi, Deborah. So what this project is about is to try and find solutions, and not only solutions, I would say more processes that bring together cultural organizations, municipalities, reach out to communities, reach out to local practitioners. So at the end, these processes are surrounded by some form of culture. They have to be culture driven, culture informed, culture inspired. And the goal of this is to put the focus on the different forms of water, the different water bodies, and think of them more than human. I try and find these ways of working together around topics that we normally wouldn't be talking about, and work with them collaboratively. And this is the vision of the Bauhaus of the Seas. And as Markus was saying, it brings together these different areas. So it's a very interesting project because it is all around Europe, and in each location there's different partners, and there will be even more people involved. But yeah, the Bauhaus will offer opportunities to engage with communities for an environmentally sustainable, socially fair, and aesthetically appealing transition. These CERN Lighthouse demonstrators, they will sort of provide these tangible examples of mission-oriented approaches that are impactful, measurable, and targeted. So when it was all being written and put into a proposal, this was typed down. I think that the best thing is that I read a couple of them. So I go to the Bauhaus of the Seas goals. The first goal is to deliver an intergenerational, interspecies, and intercultural co-design process. For this, there's a work package that is focusing on the co-design and looking at ways that we can involve different voices, not only of human voices. The next goal is to develop this or deploy this co-design process across the pilot demonstrators. I'm looking into these different coastal regions. The goal is to make real co-participation, human citizens and non-human agents. A way that this will be done is to start establishing a speaker for the living, and this is for more than human species. They will be involved in the processes of co-design and co-creation, and right now they are supposed to be people that are involved with marine biology, that is people that understand what is happening in the ocean with these different species. I'll go a bit through this, but yeah, I guess overall all these goals are sort of to find this new way of working, which yesterday we saw is very NEB. So it wants to involve the different pillars of the new European Bauhaus. These are the regions that are involved. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, there's actually in each country or region. For example, there in Lisbon, there's also Oeiras. I think that one was added a bit later. But a very interesting thing about this project is to find out how to work together. I imagine that everyone is sort of figuring that out. How can we effectively all work together, even though we're located in different parts of the country? And this I'll talk a bit more later. So the basics of this project is that the sea is a common good. So the area involves species, citizen, institutions, the values. The action plan is to develop some rules of how we can move forward, goals and values, and try and foster collaboration. I mean, I think you can see that the graphics of this are they really communicate well, and they have tried to make this as understandable as possible. So we have different attributes that we want the project to have. I'm sorry, might be a bit, you maybe have already seen this presentation. I wasn't really sure how much to talk about, so it's good. Some of you say you haven't seen it before, but I can talk a bit more about it. So these are the inter attributes that we're trying to achieve through this project, is all this interdisciplinary, cultural, generational, species sort of work. Don't worry, I'm going to talk a bit more later how we're working with this as of now. These are the aquatic ecosystems that are involved. In Venice, there's the lagoon. In Lisbon and Hamburg, we have more of a river formation. In Öresund, which is in Sweden, and Geneva, we have a sea, and in the Delta Naidas, the ocean. And each one of these is facing a different form of water, therefore a different way of working with the water. This is something that co-design is currently trying to figure out. How can we work with these different forms of water? So all these areas are facing similar challenges. It's preserving the cultural heritage. In all these areas, there's pressure and an impact of tourism. And in this project, we're also trying to see, okay, well, how can we also include tourism? You don't want to eliminate it. Of course not. We want to sort of find common grounds and see how, for example, we can all coexist in the same area without damaging it. All these areas are facing the sea water levels are rising. They all want to find sustainable supply chains. So all these projects are looking to local actors that can really bring the different resources into its project. It's all about ultimately reconnecting with nature and engaging with different citizens that maybe normally aren't reached out through processes. So this is a part of the co-design work package, and with TBA 21 we are working with the delivery of this. So I've also learned throughout the session that each project has different ways of coming their work packages. So in ours, it's about delivering this project and making sure that it is delivered. And what does that really mean? I will explain now. So this is sort of the approach. We all see that all the cities have these challenges, and co-design will try and also bring to the table both the challenges of different areas and the opportunities, and by finding also who can be involved in these processes. So we're starting at the drop scale. It's the pilot scale. It's the drop will then is an action. It's a innovative, culture-driven implementation of some certain sort of activities, and there's 6 different drops, and each drop has a certain thematic. So in one case, it's about ocean literacy, that is understanding, learning more with children, with different families about not only what we do for the ocean, but what the ocean can do for us. Another drop is to sort of try and find structures where reefs can grow, because there's a lot of concrete being inserted into the ocean, and it doesn't allow for life to thrive. So there are certain companies, consultancies, artists that are working with this and trying to find a way in which we can create structures that act as a way of favoring life as well. So with all these drops, there's 6 drops. Each city has chosen one or two of these activities that they want to do. The goal is that when they start working towards these activities, we start seeing ripple effects. So here you see it goes into rippling, that this would be not so localized, but maybe the ripples, we would start seeing effects around the city. I will talk a bit more about what ripples mean. And then the wire scale is the way. This is down the road. Can we extend this throughout Europe? This way of working, this way of testing things and seeing what effects it has. So a ripple could be that this project is taken on by communities. That would be the ideal scenario, is that we're not only coming in and doing something, but really embedding it in the local context. So, well, I'll talk a bit more about this. Yep.
I mean, I think this is incredibly impressive in every sense. That I have both some questions, but the first one is just how you came up with these different feats. But the cities only have to choose 2. Why? 2 drops.
Time and money.
Yeah.
It's also help. The proposal is to bring practitioners to the municipalities that have demonstrated that these drops can be disruptive at scale. So, cooking sections have transformed the entire food production system within Sky, the Isle of Skye, and then throughout digiNEB Park in the UK. Superflex are working on the super reef on the restoring the stone reef in front of the coast of Denmark. FAMLA are working with Berkeley University neuroscience to work on the emotional awe as a space for early childhood development to create creativity and mental health, and so on. So these are the practitioners that can bring it towards the municipalities, and ideally the municipalities pick up these inspirations and fund local practitioners that are already working from the local ecosystem, have already a community, but through the kind of subsidies, European subsidies and cultural partners in each city, you give them more visibility and they give, kind of inject scale into the work.
I'll throw in another question. It is to because I know in terms of what is a foundation, right? Of course, it's one of the most, or the most interesting collection of contemporary art from Plantin's in 2000. And or I would say because it's done, as you said, through participative discipline, it's as own also work in a way like an office with the artists. How much does that, because a lot of the artists that she's been working with, that are friends of mine, have a very special sort of process-oriented way of working. How much is that influence? Because I think this is like almost a role model for the Bauhaus. Yeah, but how does this affect, or this background affect with the way you process this? What do you?
Yeah, I think probably the generation of artists that we've been working with from early on has become inspirational for the next generations. No, and so there's a network of practitioners now all throughout Europe that have adopted this way of kind of research-based, process-oriented, non-object-based way of working, inserting kind of critical thinking and systems change thinking, which is inherently contemporary art. No, if you think about this and this one, that's a kind of systems criticism. No, so I think that they have been inspirational to a new generation of artists. Now it's the question: can we find these new artists? Can we support them in the process? And can we actually make the municipalities and the constituents, no? Which is this we don't have it here yet, but which we call the C Forum, right? Can we make them co-commissions of this work? Can we kind of offer our knowledge to guide the process? That's the question.
What you invent is really a new kind of art system. I would say,
Because I mean, inventing we're either utilizing the utilizing process as a new form of innovation, right? And what you do when you move into the field of art production, no? Of making a work of art, you remove the necessity to be useful, which is fantastic. If you are developing something that does not have to be the useful product at the end, but is art, right? Then if you're accompanying and if you're observing that process very carefully, then you might find innovative the solutions that are products, right? So this is a question. So you reduce the pressure of having to be a success by calling it art, but then you develop the residue that might be useful.
Yes, and it's also, I would say, with TBA coming into this project is to see an issue and not say, okay, how can we solve it? But seeing this issue and saying, well, let's talk about it and let's bring it to the public. And I think that this is especially what we're going to try and convey this message to the different localities, that this is sort of the goal of this project too. Here we have sort of how it's working with the different work packages. As I said, we have different names. The co-design is bringing together non-humans, migrants, local community, visitors, looking into the heritage of the space, the built environment, and as Markus said, this through the C4. The C4 is a group of experts from different disciplines. It doesn't need to be scientific only, it can be also artists are included in the C Forum, and bringing them together and bringing this group that can sort of guide the process as well, and through co-design start looking into how to do ongoing evaluation, what should be designed, etc. So I'm sorry I didn't put this presentation of who is at the core, but who is at the core is the municipality and the cultural institution. They reach out to the C Forum of this group of experts, and ideally they would be organizations. So it's not just 5 people that come together and after 3 years they have no relation whatsoever. It's ideally organizations that can come in, act as experts, they provide their inputs, and they continue on the process. And then this sort of core group has to involve communities and has to identify people that are very interested in this process and can come in and ideally and hopefully continue on the process. And missing out, yes, the local practitioners, which you guys have been talking about what their role would be. What we want the municipalities, the local cultural institutions to bring them into the process, to work with them, to create public-facing programming that can engage with different citizens, and therefore establish a working group that is really big and is doing some great things that will continue on after the 3 years of art gone. So what can I say about this? We've been, let's say, fighting a bit to understand, to create a common lexicon, something that we talked about yesterday. So I'd say in this past month, it's been about finding within the work packages the common understanding of what a drop is and what it should include. So I've already mentioned a bit about this. It's this hyper-local, culture-driven activity that involves all these different parts, curators, experts, observers. This is where TBA 21 comes in. And one thing we've been also discussing is we're going to be elaborating an expert development program that is taking people that have worked already with certain projects like Superflex, Back Studio, and so on, bringing them into the different cities, but not having maybe, I rephrase this, and at some point, moving on to finding, as Markus said, these local practitioners that have already a relation or have worked already with these topics, ocean, literacy, the well-being of reefs, and these other ones. And
it's what we said yesterday. And instead of transplanting practices, assuming that someone has the universal solution for everything, it's like is transplanting parameters and beginnings of processes, and then finding global practitioners that are already massively connected or intimately connected to the local ecosystem. That's it. That's the premise of it.
So here we have the presentation of the different cities and who is working on the different ones. So in Lisbon, it is the Institute of Technology, and with Belgium, which is acting as the cultural partner. In Genoa, it's IIT, an Institute of Technology, and as well, and it doesn't appear, but this and is the commune, the Genoa, is also involved. In Malmö, it's Malmö University and Naturum. I go to the next one and then come back. Hamburg is the institute. They are working a lot with ZOOP concept, and ZOOP is an organization that includes the more than human. Not only includes, they really act as participants in processes. So the new institute will be very interesting. They will be bringing into this project this more than human perspective and training the different cities in how can they create the more than human. Venice it's not true. There's 4 different partners, CAFO studies, so 2 universities, the commune and NASPAM, which I don't remember right now. The Port Authority. OIDAS has, as you see, there's always 2 partners that come from our cultural or education, and the commune, which is really fantastic, because if we wouldn't have the commune already involved, maybe we would have more difficulties to kickstart this project.
How we do talk before we go?
Okay, but then on side.
So maybe again, maybe because the say we just have to more.
Well, no one saw that. These are the stages. Right now, we are working very closely co-design and delivery. So we understand what drops are, what ripples are, and that co-design can then work around these concepts and work with these concepts. And yeah, I think I'll just leave it now, but if it's a question.